pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are you doing a roll call back?
Yes. I will be doing a roll call and all other things.
You got my vote anytime.
I appreciate everybody's patience. However, we'll get right into the roll call. Mr. Arcuri. Here. Mr. Bowe. Here. Mr. Brodsky. Here. Mr. Core. Here. Oh, there you go. Mr. Coyne. Here. Mr. Belia. Here. Mr. Ford. Present. Mr. Lewis. Here. Mr. Karam. Here. Mr. Mutolo. Here. Ms. Cesny. Here. Mr. Wallace. Yes. All right, we have full attendance.
Thanks, Sue. You have the draft August 16, 2019 minutes in your packet. Is there a motion to approve? Thanks, Danny. Second?
Okay.
Thanks. Did you get any of this, Pat?
Wait, I got a tab sheet.
Sue could just watch the
Minutes.
tape.
Motion by Jackie and seconded by who?
You got a Frank.
Frank, thank you. Okay.
Any comments, corrections, deletions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Do we need any further discussion regarding our rates?
Not unless board members have any particular questions that we'd be happy to try to answer for you, but I guess one advantage of doing a hearing here is you got to hear something then that I don't have to repeat now, right?
So we have the decision regarding establishment of water rates, fees, and charges effective January 1, 2020 in your packet. That would be what we are looking to approve if the board is so inclined.
We had one quick item, and that had
Yes.
to do with the technology.
Yes.
So that's essentially been withdrawn for the time being. Is that-
From the budget.
From the budget,
Yeah.
from the budget. Okay.
So we have an area that we can tap into.
Right.
As we look into that, Frank's committee's going to dive into that
That
more.
has
And
not
then
been resolved.
when we have something to bring to the board, it'll come.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so there's nothing in this budget dealing with that right now.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'll move the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion, comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Next is the approval of the proposed budget itself. Is that correct, Pat?
That would be correct.
Which is in which document here?
So, in your pile, by the way, I didn't have time to put them all in the books, so I apologize, but
Oh,
everything in the
this
pile
is
is
one.
in
Looks
order.
like this.
Everything's in the order. So right after the letter from our rate consultant, and then the rate resolution should be the actual budget document. We do not have a specific resolution for it. Generally, we have just done that by motion and vote. The resolution is for the rate determination, which we just did. So.
All right.
Make a motion to approve the budget.
Thank you, Dave. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Mark? Any further discussion regarding the budget? Yes, Bruce?
I mean, we know this, but it is being recorded for the 3 people that might watch it on television. There's two major things that happened in the budget this year so that there wouldn't be as much of an increase as it could have been. One was that we're looking at technology, equipment, long-term investment in applications, changes needed to deal with the digital dangers which are long-term for this agency. We're looking at that as we look at capital projects. We're looking at it as an issue that needs to be planned, presented to the board in a way that it has a long-term effect. Funding it from various sources, could be budget, could be from fund save, could be from bonding, depending on the type of expense. But I think what the board is being asked to do, or will be asked to do, is to look at technology as the capital investment that it is, the long-term capital investment in the organization. It's not just let's throw budget money on it, as we have essentially done over time. And so I think that was that's 1.5% of the rate right there. And the second is something we've been doing every year for a while, We had to increase a little bit this year, and that's the cash carried forward from past years. This board has recognized that there is an obligation to help offset the burden on the ratepayer. And when times were good and we were able to put money aside, it's now allowed us the opportunity to take some of that money as needed and put it into the operating budget. So we're saying that when the ratepayers' total dollars were more than were necessary in a particular year, whether it was 50,000 or 100,000, whatever it was, that money has been accumulating, and we're taking $865,000 of that and applying it to the budget this year. That's what, 3.5%, 4%? That could have been an increase if we didn't do that. So the board is being asked to approve a budget that is recognizing the burden of the ratepayers. Nobody wants to see a rate increase. As I've said many times, my consumer complaints come from my wife who writes the bills. And I want to tell you, I hear about the water bill all the time, and I keep reminding her, it's not the water bill, it's the water bill, it's the city sewer bill, and it's the county, Park County Sewer District bill. We are one part of that, and they just raise rates, and I dare anyone to tell me when they do that, because no one ever knows what happens. It just sort of shows up as increases on the sewer bills. So this board has been extremely responsible over the years. When the federal government came to us and said, we don't like the way you're doing things, close your outdoor reservoirs, build these tanks and do other things, and we had to spend $25 million without any elective oversight.
Yeah, let's get that number right back.
Whatever that number is, it was like, give me a break, it was at least 25, it was probably more.
It was quite high. Might not have been 60, well, 60 including treatment plants.
Yeah, I mean, it's like absolutely crazy that the bureaucrats get to determine how much our ratepayers are going to pay. It wasn't the elected officials, it wasn't this board, it was the bureaucrats in Washington and in Albany. So we are doing everything we can. I'm very proud of my relationships on this board. I'm very happy to serve on this board. This board has been extremely responsible to the ratepayers because we are all ratepayers.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's forgotten that everybody at this table is a ratepayer, and that we're a volunteer board. Nobody has to be sitting here at all.
Except for pizza.
And that it takes a great deal of time to actively participate in this organization, understand a complicated $25 million budget, or I forget the exact figure on this budget. I also agree with you, Bruce, that we've done a great job. So, anybody else?
Yes. I think that you made a lot of good points here tonight, but I think what we need to do a better job at is we know what we've done it very
Absolutely.
Efficiently, and we've done our due diligence. Every year we go through this budget process, we've really cut back. But I think the problem is, and in listening to tonight at the rate hearing, what I'm hearing from a lot of these residents are that they're not really quite informed of why we're doing what we're doing. Now, there were a couple of things that came out tonight that obviously we couldn't comment on, but when they talked about, being a low, interest rates are very low right now, so refinancing. Jim Corfanta's done a great job in proposing it to the board. We've lowered our bond rates many times. So you take a look at that. I think a big point tonight was, and Bruce just mentioned it, the bill. A third of that bill is ours. The rest is the sewer tax from the city and the county. It needs to get communicated. And I think, we talk about we had to put these tanks in. These tanks, yes, we had to go out and bond. That was mandated, right? So we had to spend...
Unfunded mandate.
Exactly. So I think, we do have the website. A lot of the residents tonight talked about, they see it on the website. I think what we need to do is a better job as we go through this, because tonight they did talk about, the past 20 years we had rate increases. Yes, we may have, but these are the reasons why we had rate increases. We really need to do a better job in getting that message out and explaining the things that we've done, because there is an answer for it. And if you really look at the way,
you know, businesses are going between increase in healthcare and, you know, a whole new thing, you know, and people could say, well, this is the way it was 20 or 40 years ago. Today you got new issues, you got cybersecurity issues. You know, what expense was there 20 years ago for that? There wasn't. You know, so I think we just need to do a better job in identifying that. Maybe if we do that as we go along, or we do a summary piece and put it on the web and get it out there, just to educate the public so they know this is really what we're getting for our money. And I think the biggest issue that everyone has is they look at the total bill, and that is not our.
But I don't know how anybody can look at that bill today. It's something we've addressed over the years several times. How you can look at that bill and not understand that the water portion is a separate and distinct portion, and the sewer taxes are separate and distinct. I don't know how anybody can look at that and be confused at all.
Well, some
But if
people
it's
might
on
think
there
road
and they
savings.
see it over and over, hopefully the message gets across, or it may eliminate a lot of the, you know, the comments when they come in here to talk about it, and, you know, I don't think anyone really knew that.
Or they don't know those are separate agencies.
So when you get that bill in the mail, what's it standing outside now?
Oh, right. I mean, I've actually, you know, I brought that up at one meeting saying, why are we the collector for that?
No, I'm just saying, but that's what they say, Rob.
Exactly. And that's why I think we need to make sure we do a thorough job.
I agree 100%.
A better job of getting the message out. This is what we've been doing over the years, and this is why you're seeing these increases. And as Bruce said, you know, we might have been a little bit conservative, building up this, you know, reserve account, but that's to protect us. That's just good, solid fiscal management of the company, the business here that we run. Because you know, if there's a rainy day, you can't always go to the well and bond. And there, for a long time, we couldn't even go back for bonding because of the cap that we had. People don't understand that, but and rightfully so, because they've never been educated on it.
I just would like to set the record straight real quickly. I misspoke before. Bruce was talking about the regulatory compliance and all the tanks and stuff. I said 60 million, the real number totaled about 30 million. I did misspeak, so I just wanted to, in case anyone's watching.
I mean, let me tell you, 30 million is still a big number.
30
It
million.
was a big
You gotta
number,
pay
but
for that,
it
you
wasn't
know?
60 million, it totaled about 30 million for us.
Okay, so you take that bill, that 30 million, and if you spread it out over, what do you do that bond over, 30 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
It becomes
so you
60
take it on an annual, you take it on an annual basis, and what that's going to do, that increase in that debt service, and how much did that apply just to the increase in the bill?
It's about 70,000 per million that we have to pay.
And during those years, we had rate increases of 13%,
Right. Oh, it's
11.5%,
terrible.
9.5%, and 8%.
Yeah.
I just think that's why it's so important to just, you know, yeah, everyone could say, you know, we could manage the business better, cut costs here. You know, you really don't know until you're in the, you know, you get into the trenches on this. But I think if we can maybe explain a little, you know, just do a better job in explaining to them, it might help out. You know, it may never go away, and we've run it the best we can, and guess what? We've done a good job of it, absolutely.
Do you still put the flyers in the bills or?
No, we need to resurrect the newsletter, I think that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave?
Very quickly, just to add to that, after our last meeting, I checked the CPI, and the CPI for this year is 2.4%. So I think we're right there, and I don't think, you know, it's excessive. We're within a tenth of a point of CPI.
Oh, are we done with it? Did we vote?
Motion by Dave, seconded by Mark.
Oh, okay, sorry. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. See, usually Sue can poke me under the table. Sorry.
My
Gotta do something, yeah. The next item on our agenda is the approval of MVWA mobile device policy.
Just another issue that reflects changing technologies and the fact that phones are much more than phones nowadays, or many computers. So this policy is to try to keep your mobile device that our company issues to employees in the same realm as other computerized devices for security, for usage, safeguards, etc. You know, anti-malware software, and a whole range of things. So this was sent out in advance. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a look at it. It's pretty straightforward and I think reflects probably a fairly common industry language.
Was this actually, policy, was this given to us by
IBM.
IBM
It
Group?
was provided by them.
Then I'd say
This
that's-
policy?
Or Tri-Delta. I think it might come from Tri-Delta.
This is a stock off.
I think it came from Tri-Delta. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
stock-
basically
stock
generic.
offline.
Yeah,
Generic.
it's generic, yeah.
It went through the
It
committee.
was supplied by Tri-Delta, not IBM, I'm sorry, which is their cloud backup system and firewall. Like I said, it's
Any
it's pretty
questions
standard.
or comments?
Make a motion to move it.
Thank you, Dave. Second. Thanks, Rich. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. You have the third quarter investment statement ending September 30, 2019 in your packet. Any comments on this, Jim?
No, just, as I said in the past, public authority law required that we provide you a quarterly investment report showing the balances, revenues that are generated from it, any expenses that are associated with it. So after 3 quarters, we're doing well. We're surpassing what we had in our budget, so things are looking good. And what normally happens is we'll be using these funds over time. These are, a lot of it is construction funds and then reserve money that's sitting in there, so we invest it.
Any questions for Jim? We need a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Rich and Bruce on that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Do you have anything on finance, Jim? that you-
Just, as Pat had mentioned before, our consumption is down. We're, as of September, we're actually down 3.5% compared to last year. So we're continually evaluating that and seeing where our reductions are. It's mainly been in our monthly customers, our commercial type customers. So we're looking at that and trying to evaluate that. But revenues are within budget, so we're good there. Cash flow, we're actually getting a little excess now because we have some larger payments, retirement coming up in December, so we need to hopefully get extra cash to pay those bills.
Any que-
Yes.
I was looking at delinquents. How many, a couple of them here running $58,000. And there's another one for 19,000. How do they get that high? And they're not shut off.
Right, I know we're in the process of doing that. I know there's a somewhat of a backlog.
Yeah, no, Frank asked that question too. I did talk to Ann and Ann had answers for us.
Yeah, we have a couple of accounts that are, and we've talked about this before, like the buildings have not, the buildings have not removed the meters. They may or may not have the water off, depending on if they have fire service or not. And it's the ready-to-serve meter charge that is kind of boosting up that balance that we have. And yet, they're really, like Charlestown is one of them, the old,
I see it shut off, Charleston.
J&J Auto, I think,
There's
which
one
is.
J's Auto for
Yeah, so that's
58,000.
the, what's the name of that building? Hyosung Building. Yeah, so, Hyosung, the Dunlop Building that's empty. So, I mean, between Pat and Jim, we kind of have to talk about if we want to continue to have that on there, carry that on there, or
Yeah,
what,
we can't
how
really
we
shut it
want
off
to
because it's
handle
market
it.
protection, but yeah,
Yeah.
the building's vacant, no one really owns it, so it's sort of racking up charges, there's nobody to bill it to. Well, they
Yeah.
own it, but there's nobody
Yeah.
paying the bill or the taxes. I get that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So when do you stop running up the bills, I guess? is what-
Well, I guess that's really the accounting question, is at some point it's probably not recoverable. And,
Well, sure, I mean, but these, yeah, but they have to go to taxes before long, and then goes through its process, and then when they are not collectible, then we'll write them off. But that's a long time down the road. It's usually years down the road.
But that was a county auction building. Now they buy the building when I pay taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, J&J's Auto bought, they bought that building through the county auction, but, you know, we're not sure what's actually going on there, because somebody seems to be in there. We caught some people in there with, you know, using a hydrant to clean it down,
Can
but.
our legal person look into this and any deeper, or is it beyond that?
Well, I think,
I was gonna say the same to them.
I think it's something that we've been discussing and that we need to kind of have a final decision how we want to handle it at this point. But that's why they're still showing up like that.
And is Rosaro, the Rosaro LLC?
The second one.
That's 19,000?
Do you know, does it list the address there?
It doesn't on here, no. We didn't put in an address or account number.
Yeah,
We have it off to the side, but it's not listed on here.
yeah,
We'll find out. And let you know.
yeah.
I believe when a building is sold, it's supposed to be a search, and the bills are supposed to be paid.
Well, it depends. If it's foreclosed, then very often they'll dismiss the lien in the course of selling it too, and sometimes we don't even find out until afterwards.
It's too late.
Yeah. So we end up, a lot of these get written off as the building, taken into foreclosure and then dismissed later by the county or city.
Are we done with you, Jim?
Yeah.
Frank, did you have anything to add regarding the operations?
Not yet, we're just gonna continue reviewing that. IBM is supposed to get back to us with some revisions because the presentation that they did last time, wasn't very complete. So we-
Okay, good. So your committee will jump into that, and then you'll let us know, and we should be taking a look at
Yes,
something.
when we can actually get some.
Great, thanks. Your very brief executive director's report?
Nothing real specific, I'll hit the highlights.
Yes, the
2
highlights.
minutes or less. Last Thursday night, the 24th, both Phil Tangora, our water quality director, and I have been invited to testify for a New York State Assembly task force that was assembled by Brian Kolb, who's the minority leader in the Assembly in the Geneva area. The Assembly minority has put together a task force to explore water quality and infrastructure issues related to water across the state. I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do with it in the long run, but they're gathering information. They're holding a series of hearings across the state. The very first one was held in Herkimer. It was at the community college down there. So Phil and I was representing the Water Authority. Told them about a lot of our funding needs and projects we have going on, our raw water line, et cetera. Phil spoke as the chair of the New York State section of the American Water Works Association. If you didn't know that, Phil is the current chair of the state section. So they raised issues about regulations and having them based on science and providing adequate timetables for compliance, et cetera, et cetera. So I think these assemblymen that were there, I say assemblymen because we're all male, got some good information from 7 or 8 other people that spoke besides us. And we'll see what comes out of it. But it was good to participate. I'm glad they're interested. 2 other things I want to mention real quickly. As I told the other gentleman here, I was at a conference last week for the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, AMWA. They deal with a little bit different issues than AWWA. But we did get a little bit of a sneak preview of the it's being revised. It's called the Lead and Copper Rule. It has to deal with lead levels in the water and lead service pipes, also copper. But it hasn't really been updated since 1993. Is that right?
1991, really.
Yeah, early 90s. So they're looking at it now. And the only thing we know is that it's supposed to be finalized next year, but it looks like they're going to leave the action level, quote unquote, at 15 parts per billion. So right now we have to sample on a periodic basis, and then our 90th percentile results have to be below 15 parts per billion. We've committed 12, 11, 13 in that range the last bunch of times. So we've been below the action level. But what will be new is, even if they leave the 15 number there, they're going to be creating a new trigger level of 10 parts per billion. And if like us, if we end up less than the action level, but above the trigger level, then there's a bunch of things we have to do that stop probably just short of ripping out all the pipes, the lead service pipes. But if we end up above 10, then we have to start doing new reviews on our whole corrosion control and treatment and buffering process. There's informational things we need to do. The other thing that's going to be in it is that if there's a galvanized metal service pipe that was ever in contact with any lead, that has to be treated as a lead service. So there's some things coming down that look a little bit onerous. We won't know for sure until it passes next year, and then we do our next round of lead testing, see where we end up. But on the high side, this is a $15 to $17, $18 million project. We have to rip out all the lead service pipes. One part of the proposed rule is that if you fall into a certain category, you need to do 3% of them a year, which would bring us down to $400,000 or $500,000 a year over a bunch of years until they're all replaced. So again, more probably unfunded mandates. Maybe there'll be some money available now, so probably not. I see Bruce is shaking his head, I agree. The other issue I wanted to mention very quickly that I also found out about at this conference, I listened to a presentation from a guy from Standard & Poor's, S&P Global, and he was talking about bonding. And he said, the one line that really stuck in my head is he said, Europe exports a lot of things to the United States, but the thing they export the very most is regulations. And he said, what's happening right now in Europe is something in the industry very related to climate change. He said, you can't be sued for causing climate change, but now based on some cases in Europe, you can be sued for not preparing for climate change. And so what they're doing in the bond market over there now is to protect the bond purchasers, the investors, from risk of them being sued or having their business interrupted where they can't even make their bond payments, is what they're going to probably start doing, and it's going to be happening in Europe very shortly, but probably will start here, I would imagine, in just a few years, is that as we bond, we're going to have to show to the investors that we have a climate action plan, that we're prepared for whatever sort of catastrophic climate change repercussions could potentially affect us or interrupt the business, a drought, running out of water, things like that. So again, it's another brave new world aspect that we could be staring down the barrel at in another 2 or 3 years as we start to bond. We don't know what the new requirements are going to look like.
I think we should stop sending you to these things.
I wish it was that easy.
It sounds like we should stop producing lawyers.
There you go.
Legislation.
Maybe just a bit. We've always had hurricanes for thousands of years, tornadoes for thousands of years. At any rate, I'll stop there in case unless there's any questions. Yes.
On the service line thing.
Yeah.
If we have to change them, we'd still be status quo, we go through the curbacks, not because we can't work on private property, so we can't go into the house.
That's an issue that's being looked at in the regulations.
Like the gentleman said, that curb stop was on his property, it shouldn't be, it should be on private.
Well, it's in the right of way. I mean, it might be in the grass behind the sidewalk, and he's going to say it's my property, but the city right of way
Exactly.
encroaches onto the front lawn. I don't know, Phil, I don't know if you've heard anything new through state MVWA and the private side of those pipes?
So first of all, the rule hasn't been published in the Federal Register yet, so the comment period hasn't even begun. Once that's done, you have a 60-day comment period, and then the negotiation process begins before the rule will be published. Currently, there is no provision to go on the private side and do a swap out. However, whenever you do a repair, in the provision would be that you have to provide filters and testing for those households, as well as public education and a publicly available database of where those service lines are. So, but all of this has just been announced. It hasn't been officially proposed in the Federal Register as of today.
Yeah, and another piece of the proposal is that if the homeowner replaces a lead service on the private side, at that point, the public utility is mandated to change
In 45 days.
their side, as soon as the homeowner does their side. Now, what we do is, if we know of a homeowner doing their side, we try and get out and do our side in tandem with it. So, for most part, we're already doing that now.
Exactly.
But they may mandate that any private side being replaced by a homeowner triggers a mandatory requirement for us to do our side. That's still 745 days. That's being talked about right now. It's in the draft language, but nothing's formal.
Is that a big issue among the older homes?
We have, right now, we're not even sure exactly how many we have. We're still doing a count. We have the meter readers going in to get as many houses as they can, checking the inventory. Somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000, we estimate right now, right, Dick? 2,800 maybe? Maybe.
We've been working for a couple of years to identify the number of lead services and actually confirm that.
Yeah.
But we have a ways to go. But that will be part of this rule process most likely.
How far back years does that go to the?
It was mostly housing stock from the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think of the.
From the late
30s.
I don't remember the exact date they cut it off, but houses that were built in the 20s and the 30s, very common to have a lead pipe.
How do you know when the homeowner's going to replace the service?
We don't, other than they're supposed to call us, and the plumber's supposed to call us because they're gonna be digging at the curb stop. We have to go inspect it. When they, well, actually, they're supposed to come here.
Shut it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have to go shut it off at the curb, and then we actually send someone to inspect the backfilling of the new line, because we wanna make sure that it's not pinched, it's not, there's no,
So
solid
currently,
joints.
there's no requirement for you to replace the service from the curb box back to the main.
Right.
If I, the homeowner, replaced my lead service.
Right, but if you do replace yours, and we're aware of it, we try to get out and replace the other side.
Try
fast.
to, not.
It's not legally required right now.
It's not required, but it is standard practice for
Yeah.
the water authority.
We do that. Yeah.
How many do you think people really know whether they have lead pipe or?
That's part of the education program that's gonna be in this. The idea is to, help people understand if they have a lead pipe or not, and what to look for.
We
Generally
got-
speaking, though, if it looks like it's a grayish metal, and you just take a coin and scratch it. If it scratches real easily and it's really bright and silvery shiny, that's probably lead.
This would be coming into the house as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah. So right where it comes out of the foundation, ahead of the meter, that's the pipe you wanna look at.
All that information we have available on our website now,
Yeah.
and we've done some mailings and some public education campaigns to help get the customers to assist us in identifying the service type. So that information is on our website right now.
Oh, good.
Is there any plan to do any mailing, like including the brochure with the billing?
And we've done some of that too, with limited success, but we have done a targeted approach to that.
The city of Utica was awarded, was it 640,000?
It was about 200,000
Six-
per year. So close, was it $600?
I thought the dollar.
Over a couple of years.
Yeah, over 2 years.
2 years. something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
a 2-year program, so we've been working with the city. They've been selecting certain streets that they were gonna try to also do street reconstruction in tandem with the services. So we had a bunch of services replaced as they were doing that through the contract. So we're making progress. Anything else?
Anything else? Any old business?
Pat, the West Frankfurt water tank issue that we already discussed last month, I thought we were supposed to get to bed this month.
I thought somebody was supposed to come in with some dollar figures in the project scope, no? Dick, have you had any conversation with anybody out there?
Nothing recent, no.
All right, well, unless I misunderstood, I thought that the town was gonna give us an updated scope of the project so that we could figure out actually what our potential
That's supposed to be end of
contribution.
month.
Okay,
I will have it for you next month.
okay. Yeah, as soon as we know what the project is,
Yep.
what the total cost is, and what size everything's gonna be, and what potential benefit extends beyond there, then we can run it through our formula and figure out what a contribution might look like from the water authority.
Okay.
Any other old business?
Quick one want to thank Dick for going out the other day. We went up to Snowden Hill and looked over the site. It's coming along very nicely, so kudos, Dick.
Anybody else on old business? Any new business? We're adjourned, thanks everybody.